today, well, so first of all, don't forget to make sure you have that Word document with the code in front of you that I made. So we're on day 3, so we've got a couple chunks still to go. Not too many tonight. And then the other thing is, let me direct your attention to the folder on Box that has everything in it, because I uploaded a couple of new files just yesterday. So that should be the link to the folder. There's 2 audio files in there. One of them is background music and one of them is a sound effect. So you will need those for today's lesson and everything. Hello, Carolina. How are you? Okay, so I will get going. Make sure you, like I said, have the code in front of you and then download those 2 audio files. You can just put them anywhere on your computer for right now. So just make sure that you have all of that as we begin, and we should be ready to go. All right, so today's goals are simple. We're just going to add a couple of things. We're going to add a start screen and an end screen. So a screen to just sort of like welcome the player, and then a screen to show the player when they've reached the end of the game. And then in between, we're going to add the music and the one sound effect. And then we're also going to show you how to full screen the game. So up until now, we've just had it open in a little window. That's the default resolution size of the game. But we're going to show you how to full screen the game, which is how most people play games, and export it so that you can share it with family and friends at the end. And all of these steps, none of these steps are particularly complicated, but we have a lot of them. So yeah, let's get to it. So everyone can see my Game Maker application okay? Yes, good, okay. So I'm just going to open the workshop from last time. And also, if there's a time at the end, which I don't know if there will be, but I can show you some other little ways that we could like tweak this game to make it more to your liking. Okay, so if we are on rooms, first thing we're going to do is right click and then create a new room. And I'm going to call this RM_start. And obviously this will be our starting room. And just like we did before, since this room's not going to have any camera in it, we need to make sure that we change the dimensions down here to match the camera in our main room. So the camera in our main room, if you go to viewport, okay, actually it's good. All right, so 1366 by 768. So we just need to make sure that that lines up. So 1366 by 768. So if I go to my start room, 1366 by 768. That's important because the very first room of your game is going to dictate the dimensions, the aspect ratio, the height and width ratio of the whole rest of your game. And let's just see if anyone's asking anything. Very good. Okay. So, so we have our start room, and we need to set a background for it. We can use the same background as we did for our platformer room. So if you click on the background layer, and then you see the little box that says no sprite, click on that, click on the sprites, and just like we did before, tile it horizontally and vertically. Actually, what I might do, just because it's a different color, should I use the green? No, that's too much. We'll stick with the blue. Boop. Very good. Okay. So, so we have a background. All we're going to do for this start screen, I mean, you can put whatever you want on here, obviously. Typically, for a start screen, you would have like a logo and maybe the character or character portrait or something. But you would also have some text that's letting the player know what to do to get started. Usually, there would be some options like, maybe they can change some of the game settings or exit the game. But for us, we're just going to keep it very simple. We're just going to tell the user how to begin the game. So we need to use some text to do that. Now, if we haven't picked up on it already, everything in making games is difficult. um, no, that's not true. Sort of true. We need to tell the game absolutely everything, right? There's a lot that's pre-built that we're building upon, right? We didn't have to like set too much in terms of like how collisions work between some of our objects and stuff. But we do need to kind of spell out a lot. And one of the things we need to spell out is actually the font. So when we're going to introduce text into our game, it's not enough to just start typing something. It needs to know what font that we want to use to type that thing. So we have a fonts folder under our assets here. So I right click, create font. The prefix for a font is FN underscore. And I'm gonna more or less just use the default font here. So it's an Arial font. So I'll just type FN underscore and then Arial. Make sure that you're spelling Arial correctly, because one of the things when I was teaching web design, we were using a lot of different fonts. One of the most common mistakes is people type Arial, Ariel, like the Little Mermaid. But we want the font, not the mermaid. So, not the name. So make sure you spell it right, because we're going to have to reference it in our code. So we want to make sure that we're spelling it correctly. So in here, yeah, we could change a bunch of different stuff, where we could actually change the font. We can change the style and the size and the anti-aliasing and everything, but we don't need to do that. These are all things you could do on your own if you want. Of course, if you need a custom font at some point, then this selection here will be based on the fonts that your computer, that your operating system already has built in. So you just install that font like normal, and then you'd be good to go. All right, so this is all we have to do. We created it, we gave it a name, so we can move on from there. I don't need a sprite for this object that's going to control the fonts, because the visual representation is not going to be a sprite. The visual representation is going to be the text. So I don't need a sprite for it, but I do need an object, because everything in the game has to have an object, or else it can't really do anything. So click on the objects folder and then create and then object. And I'm going to call this OB underscore start. And in here, once again, I don't need to select a sprite, because there's just not going to be one associated with it. But I do need to trigger something that's going to draw this text on the screen and draw it in exactly the way that we want it, because there's still going to be a couple settings that we have to change. So I'm going to click add event and then draw and then draw. Now I'll explain some of these options a little bit. So first of all, every object already has a draw event. And even though we didn't have to set it, we didn't overwrite it with anything else either. So it just sort of used the default settings. But everything has to be drawn. Everything has to have a sort of a draw command in order to appear visually in our games. So here we're sort of dictating that ourselves. So under draw, we have all of these different options. The only ones that I guess I want to explain a little bit are, so the first one, draw, is just draw something on the screen. Very straightforward. The second one, draw GUI, is draw graphical user interface. And this is good for things you want to display to the player at all times, like health or a score or number of lives or whatever you need them to keep track of at all times. Because the whatever you draw for draw GUI is going to stay with the camera by default. So it'll travel with the player as they move the camera. That's what that's for. The draw begin, draw end, draw GUI begin end. This is exactly the same as when we had step begin and end. And there's a reason for this. So draw and step operate very similarly. And if you think about it, they should. So I said a step event is something that happens every possible frame of the game, right? Every possible moment of processing, the step event is going to be run. Draw is the same way, because if you think about it, even if you just have a game where your character is just standing there in the middle of the screen and they're not doing anything, to us, they're not moving. It looks like nothing is happening. But from the game's perspective, it's actually being told to draw that sprite once every frame, right? So every frame, something is happening, just like in the step event. It's drawing that sprite. So frame 1, draw the sprite. Frame 2, draw the sprite, even though they're in the same position. So just in the same way that step can be, you can have something that happens just before the step and just after the step. That's begin step and end step. Draw is the same way. So if you want something that happens just before this draw event or just after it, just before the draw GUI or just after it. So that's what that's for. Okay, but that's just a little bit of background explanation. We're not using anything today other than draw. So click on add event and then draw and then draw. And then in here, this is where we are going to add our code. So we use this widget that we've used a lot, which is execute code. Drag and drop it in, reposition so that we can actually see what's in there. And then we're going to use the first chunk of code from our copy paste Word document and paste that in. So I'll give everyone a moment to do that. It looks like 4 lines in the Word document, but you'll see it, you know, the 4th line is basically just broken up by the word wrap in Microsoft Word. And so I will go through these and explain them. So as I said, even though it's something simple like just displaying some font, we actually do need to spell all of this out to the game. We have to tell it everything. If we don't, you know, it'll still appear, it just won't, it'll just use default settings. And that's okay, but we wanna know how to have as much control as possible over this stuff. So we're using 3 different functions here to customize exactly how we want this font on our start menu to display. So this first function is draw set horizontal alignment. So basically, do you want it left justified or right justified or centered? So this built-in value is font alignment center. So we'll center the text. And then we're setting the color. This C underscore represents, there's all these built-in colors that you can choose from. Odds are, if you can think of a color name, you could type it in here after C underscore and get it. Of course, there are ways to specify exactly a color using RGB or hexadecimal values, but just keeping things simple, we're just going to type in the name of the color. You can use anything that you think is going to show up well against this background. In our case right now, we've got that kind of light blue, so I'm going with white. And then this third line here, this is where we actually create something. So draw text transformed. This function is a little bit more than we need in some ways. So normally you could just do draw text function without the transformed. But I wanted to use the transformed one just to show you that we can do a little bit more with a little bit less, or I guess with the same amount. Instead of one line of code and then having another line of code that would sort of adjust it, we can just use this one line of code to do a couple different things. So in draw text transformed, it needs a couple different values. They're all separated by commas here. And the first one, the first two are X and Y position. In other words, where do you want this to draw from? So we are trying our best to center it. That's what these two values here reflect. We're taking the built-in value, which is going to get the room width, and divide it by 2. And then we're going to take the other built-in value of the room height and divide that by 2. So we're trying our best to center it. And then beyond that, we have our next value is inside of these quotation marks represents a string. And any string value, it's basically just like how it sounds. You're stringing a bunch of characters together, characters of text, and it's just exactly what you want to display in the text. So for my text, you can change this to whatever you like, but I have my game. You can, if you've sort of started building a little bit of a, like your own narrative or your own characters or your own setting or anything, you can come up with a more descriptive title. And then press enter to begin. That's our instructions to the player. Now, you may be wondering what this /R is about. What this is going to do, this allows you to use one string that can cover multiple lines of text. So the /R represents a carriage return. It's like hitting the return key in a word processing program. So that's what this does. So we've got my game, and then we skip a line, and then we skip another line, and then press enter to begin. The transformed part also comes in with these last 3 values. So the next value represents how much do you want to change the size based on the vertical dimension, and the next one is the horizontal dimension. So I'm multiplying them by ×2. So essentially I'm saying normally our 12-point font would take up a certain amount of space, and we want to double that. And then horizontally, we want to double that. And then the last one is, what is the last one? I think it's opacity, right? And I want it to be completely full. Oh, angle. Okay. Yeah, angle is if you want to have it tilt at all. So I'm leaving it at 0 because I don't want it to. So that's everything that we're doing here. So right now, this is basically ready to go in terms of displaying our text. However, what am I still missing here? What have I not done yet based on what I just included in the text here? Why is this not quite ready to go just yet?
Can you show the whole comment/code line?
Yeah. By the way, welcome, Dan. Actually, you can. I mean, you can see it in the
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
document that you can copy it from.
Let's see the all might, and then you have the T2. Sorry, it's just okay. And the game press. I'm trying to think back to my coding on this. 4.
Noah, is that a hand up or is that from before?
I assume he's typing.
Tough to say. Oh, it's from before.
Oh, from before.
That's so sad.
I guess like I said, my memory apparently isn't as. Let me just get that up. Oh, Joe, don't say that.
I'm just joking.
I'm just trying to remember.
Just having fun with text.
So you have. So do you have the?
All right, I'm gonna give you a hint. Ready?
Yeah, give me a hint, Joe. I assume it's something about pressing enter, right?
Yes.
Okay. I wasn't sure if like I missed something that was earlier, but yeah. Oh, so
That's
you need
okay.
to have the key press, which is the
Yes.
I assume it's an if situation.
Well, we could be all complicated like that, but
Oh, I
we
forgot
don't
that.
need to.
You can just make it linked to this code specifically. I forgot you could do that in this.
Yeah. So, okay, so let's go back to this object, and we'll just do key pressed and enter. And now we just need to tell it to do something when the user hits enter. And I want to go to the next room, which is this one. So we drag and drop that chunk in, and we make sure everything is all lined up in our little room manager down here. So we, at the moment, we still have, if you look under your room assets, we've still got the house next to our platformer, which means when we run this game, that's going to be the first room that loads up, but we do not want that anymore. We want it to be the start one. So if we click next to that, we can basically rearrange these how we want. Make sure that when you drag and drop them that you like you highlight it so that the top part of the thing you're trying to drag it above is highlighted. Um, that's how you can rearrange them. What we don't want to do is make one room a child element of another, and that's something you can do sort of accidentally here. You can also actually just click down here and move them around. But when you have like 3 dozen rooms, clicking through them would be a little tedious. So yeah, so make sure that your start room is the one that has a little house on it, and then make sure that this order represents the order that you want your rooms to go in. So we want to start in the start room, and then we want to play the platformer room, and then after that, we're going to have our little end screen win victory room. Chat says, how do you get that somebody can come up? Yeah. So if you just, so if you're looking at the rooms under your assets here in the rooms folder, you can just click anywhere right next to them when you get this little icon that's got the little boxes and the arrows up and down. Click.
Mm. Oh, I forgot that.
So,
I want that.
so okay. So let's get this room set up. So we have our start room. Now, this is the other thing that we didn't do, but this is a smaller thing. We don't have our start object in the room yet. So it's also not ready to do any of this stuff until we place it in. So this is going to be an object with no sprite. And so when we click and drag and place it in the room, and make sure you're back on your instances layer, by the way, not the background layer. It's just going to have this little question mark icon because it's game maker literally telling you like, I don't know what you want me to display here. We don't want it to display anything, so we can kind of ignore that. But for me, what I get in the habit of doing is I always put my invisible objects in the upper left of the room, just so that I know where they are later when I want to come back. Like technically, I could put it anywhere in the room, um, but I always kind of just shove them towards the upper left here, just so that I know where to find them later on. And in fact, what we're doing right now with the centering of the object text is going to be dependent on its location. So it's actually helpful for us to put it as close to what would be the origin point or the 0, 0 point of the room. So that's where I'm going to put that. Okay, so this should be ready to go. So let's hit play, and hopefully we'll get some text with some instructions, and we'll be able to actually see that first and then go to that next room. And I'm going to remember from last time that I have to add this to my share. All right, so everyone can see this window. True, false, yes, no.
Yes, we're all
Okay,
good.
good. Thank you. All right, so let's test and make sure this works. I hit enter. Yes, we get into our room. Now I went and added a bunch of obstacles and things from last time. I still only have the same 2 obstacles, but I just put a bunch of them in the room and made it so that I could get all the way from the start to the end of my game. But I don't need to test too much more of this now, although I guess I will make the point that when we get to the end of our level, we still are not prepared for victory. We still don't have our kind of win condition ready to go. And that is when we hit this little door, still our game crashes because it's trying to go to a next room that doesn't exist. So let's build that, but we have a couple of things that are at our convenience here, because the end room is going to be almost identical to the start room. Everything about it is going to be pretty much the same. So what we can do is take advantage of something that I don't think I've shown yet during this workshop series, which is duplicating things in Game Maker. So our start room, I'm just going to right click on that and click duplicate and give it a new name, which is rm_victory. And then just so that I don't forget in a minute, it duplicated the entirety of the room, which means it duplicated that start object as well. And we don't want that start object in the end room, in the victory room. So I'm just going to select it and hit backspace to delete it. And that means we need a new object to place in this room. So I'm going to duplicate my ob_start object and rename that to ob_victory. And I'll place it in the room while I'm here. But right now it still says the same exact text. If you look at it, if you look at that object and you look at its draw event, right, everything is identical as it was before, which is close to what we want. All we have to do here is I just want you to go into the string and just change it to something that reflects 2 things. We're going to say something about congratulations, right? You win. Very good. And then we also want to give a new set of instructions, which is, we'll say, press enter to exit game. So this is almost set. Dan, what do we have to change now?
Okay, so so wait, what press is it saying? Okay, so it's the same. Press exit. Wait, just to double check, this is linked already to the enter button. Yes or no?
Yes, because we duplicated everything from before, so it's still linked, right? We still have press enter, but
oh wait, let's go to next room, but it's
yeah.
Do we have to change the function there?
Yep. So we
exit.
want it to exit the game, which is this little power button looking thing. So I will hit the X on go to next room to get rid of it, and then drag and drop in exit game.
Okay.
And then last step here is we just want to make sure, I'm just clicking on that room manager again, and I just want to make sure that everything is in the order we want. And it should be, because we had the first 2 rooms in order and then we created a new one, so it should have been put at the bottom of the list anyway. So we have our start room, our platformer, and then our victory room. So you just want to make sure that in the room manager, we're in this order and that the little house is still next to the start room. And then with that all set, I think we can test it again.
Nice. And hopefully everything.
And let me confirm you can still see this, the
Yep, we can
game.
see it all right.
Okay, good. So, oh wait,
Or that
what has
the first
happened?
time you played it, it had it, and then just dropped, I think.
Why did I?
What
Why
happened?
has this? Why does it say the first one there?
Wait, what happened?
It started me on the last room.
Yeah, that is your home.
Yeah, but it's
Uh,
not RM start.
oh, maybe what you have to do, I think, is drag it to the. Oh wait, you already have the room order set up.
Yeah.
So press play again. Is it
Hmm.
just to make sure? Make sure it's not something stupid.
Yeah.
They just. That's. Oh, maybe. No, it saves you before you do it. So let's make sure. Oh, it just exits and stops it. So wait, is it? It auto closed the game
That's weird.
too, which I assume you don't want it to do.
Well, that's what it's supposed to do. So let me let's make sure about this. So let's check the object in here. Wait, why is victory
Oh,
in
it's because you
there?
probably duplicated them and then it maybe edited the wrong room by accident.
I guess so. That's
So yeah,
weird.
let's just Control
Okay.
X and then drag it into the other one.
Well, yeah, I'll just place the right one in the right room there. Yep. And then what's in our victory room? Start. Wow, that's weird. I don't know how I did that backwards, but okay. Everyone make sure that you double check whether or not you did the same thing. Just go to your start and victory rooms and make sure the corresponding start and victory objects are the only ones that are in there. And all right, let's test this again. That's better. Okay. Game starts, enter to begin.
Oh, I don't. Let us know if it works. We can't see it at the moment though, which is really.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, that one I was surprised about.
Okay, yeah, definitely always let me know about that.
Yeah.
Boop, boop. Can you see it now?
Yes, it's all right.
Okay, good. Yeah, so the correct start room came up. And I hit enter to go to our platformer room. Playing the game. Avoiding enemies like a pro.
This is the new Dark Souls of platformers.
Right? Look at that slow comment. And congratulations. And if I hit enter, the game exits. Huzzah. All right. So for those that are following along, let me know if you are able to get to that point. We'll take a little short breather here, make sure everyone's caught up. So, yes, let's give me some kind of either text or verbal confirmation that you're there.
Noah saying his game is not started.
Does that mean it's still open somewhere? Like maybe try to hit the stop button?
Yeah. And then if not, check the bomb bar. If not,
yeah.
Double check to make sure objects in the rooms are correct. Should that too?
Not starting.
Which one is your? Do you have the home on your start in your rooms? Little house. I'm probably describing this terribly, but let me know if that's what it was or wasn't. Do you have that?
Is it trying to start up for like a half a second, or is it just not even doing anything?
Can you open up your How do you open up the room order? What's the keybind for that again?
Well, it's just click on the little
Uh,
boxes and arrow
Double
next to
check
it.
your room order quick.
I'm also curious if you did something like put the exit game function in, like if you put it in the draw event, like it might try to run it as soon as the
Yeah, because it seems his object is correct. Oh,
compiler
object victory event and
retrieve.
draw at line 5. Assignment operates, but oh, so it's a coding error, I think. So go inside object victory, go at the draw and look at line 5 and tell us if you can copy paste the code.
Yeah, you could just paste it in.
Maybe a semicolon or something like that. You may have just missed something when copying it over, which definitely happens.
Tonight we have coffee instead of grape juice because got to finish strong. Workshop 3.
Yes, indeed.
I mean, do you have the full line with
Okay, wait, is he?
with the text
You're missing a
transformed and everything?
parentheses. That's why. You have one parentheses on one end, but you're missing the other one, I believe.
Well, it should be the whole line.
Yeah. So like if he's missing the other half,
Mm-hmm.
so just get the whole line. I think you're missing the half before my game. Joe, can you bring up the code for this line?
Yeah. So it should be that whole thing should be one line, and then obviously you would change the text inside the string.
Oh, that's what you pasted. Okay. I was
Mhm.
like, I was trying to compare his to mine. Sorry, I'm about to sneeze again. We'll give a minute. Is anyone else having issues, or is everyone all good?
I think
Remember,
the other person who was following along was Zach.
Zachary. And so I will say, if any of y'all get lost, you are uploading these, correct?
Yep. I'm not doing it, but a member of the media team will do it.
Smart. So it just, I guess, no issues on Zach's end. Okay. So I guess I'll ask, because I haven't heard about this until literally this workshop. What is media and how recent is it?
Media, if I'm not mistaken, is actually a capstone project, right, Henry, Jennifer?
Oh, that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's the two of you and Alex and Sophia, right? Just the four of you?
And Dom and Kun. So we
Okay.
are like a group of like 6 people.
Who's the sixth?
Kun.
Do I know who that is?
I don't think so. I don't know.
Okay, no problem.
She was in 102, I believe.
Okay. Well, you remember how bad I am with names. But
Okay. It seems like
also that was the before times.
the code fixed the look of it. So that's good. Also, I will say my sweet mates plan to watch your videos on this app
Oh, good.
because they have a class right now, so that's why they've been unable to.
Yeah, no problem. That sounds great. Okay, so we're good to move on then. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and Dan, you can I can tell you more about media later, or you can talk to them.
Cool.
It's a cool thing. It's a cool idea. Okay, so all right, I think we're pretty good on time. So next is going to be the music and sound effects. So you're going to need those files from the folder on Box. There's just 2 of them. I think one of them is called Mario Jump, and I want to say the other one I literally just called Song. And I put the link to the folder in the chat, but I'll do it again.
Nice. Let's click on that and save it for later.
So unsurprisingly, we're really gonna import these very similarly to how we created the text, the fn underscore Arial. So in your assets folder here, we've got sounds towards the bottom. So right click and then create sound. And I'll name the first one SN underscore jump. And in order to associate this sound in GameMaker with the file on your computer, all you have to do is next to the name, you see the little 3 dots. The button says choose sound file. So click on that and then just navigate to wherever you have those sounds located and select it. And in here you can test it. And that's it for the first one. So I'll just repeat that process for the second one. Create sound SN underscore, and then I'm going to call it BGM underscore 1 for background music 1. And for this one, we select the song file. Now I got the music from a royalty-free website that makes like some video game background music. The jump sound is most definitely from the original Super Mario Brothers, so we do not own that. So make sure if you end up turning this into something that you want to share with many people that you change up the sound effect. Might be a good idea. But I figured it would be one that would work for our purposes. So, okay, and those are the only 2 that we need. So I'll give everyone a moment just to get caught up to there. Speak up if you need some more time, but we just need these 2 sounds created in our list of assets here. One's called SN underscore jump. The other one's SN underscore BGM underscore 01. Obviously, when you get into the more kind of fine tuning, polishing your game, like way later on, you might want to play with some of these settings in here to make sure that everything is like optimized both for quality and speed, right? So depending on like how much you're going to have going on in your game and how much you want your game to have to load, or how much you want your game to be of a certain file size, that you might want to play around with your media and your file types and everything. You might want to adjust some stuff in here, but for us, for tonight, all the defaults are fine. Okay, so for the background music, this is going to be real simple. I could build a separate object that was going to be like associated with our platformer room. I could make like an invisible object and put it in the room. But I want to take this opportunity to show you something, which is every room has this down here. So if you double click on the room, so we're working on the platformer room, double click on that, and then down in the lower left in the properties, if you scroll back up to the top of that window, there's a little button that says creation code. And if you click on that, you get what essentially looks like the event code window. But this is specifically for the room itself, and it just happens when this room is created. So unlike the other objects, which can have a whole slew of different events, right? Other objects can have events for when they go outside the room or when something that happens every step, whatever. But the rooms themselves are just created. So really, this is the only thing that we could manipulate for the rooms is have something that happens when this room is actually created. So I'm going to execute code in here. So I just drag that in. And then the next line of code that you should have from your Word document is the one that starts with audio play sound. And so just paste that one line in, and we're basically all set. I mean, we've added background music to our level. It's just that simple. So let me walk you through what this function does. So it's audio underscore play underscore sound. The first value is just pointing it to the sound asset by the name that we gave it in GameMaker. So it associates by the name that we used here in our little assets list, not the name of the file originally, which is good for us because that means we can really organize everything in two ways, right? We could have it organized on our hard drive in one way, and then we can have it organized in our game in a different way. So that helps. The next value is the priority. And what the priority does is basically it tries to say, okay, if we've got multiple sounds being played at one time, which ones do you want me to like override which other ones? Which ones are literally of a higher priority? And we want to make sure that those sounds get heard. So this would be, and this goes from, I can't remember if it's 0 to 100 or 1 to 100, but higher is more priority. So you want to think about like something like if you have character dialogue, that's going to be up at 100, right? Or 99, something like that. But background music, literally in the background, is going to be somewhat lower. So I could have gone with 0 or 1, and we only have 2 sounds in this whole game anyway. But I'm going with 5 just to sort of give you an example of a value there. And then the last one, this is whether or not you want that sound to loop. And this is a very dangerous setting potentially. But because this is background music, yes, we do want it to loop. So when this song is done, we want it to start over again. And obviously the situation in which you're using a certain sound effect will dictate whether you want that. But for something like background music, we do. So this is all good. And if we want, we can test it right now. It won't take very long to do.
Hear the jams. I do not. There you are.
About now.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a little bit annoying because I have to start the little preview executable for my game always comes up as a new application, and so I have to keep reminding Zoom to share it. So that's what that's about.
What happens if you share your whole screen?
Oh, I could do that, but then I'd be sharing my whole screen. So actually, the real problem with that we found last time was because then you would see how I see all of your faces and stuff from Zoom. It would be over the Game Maker.
I don't think it's supposed to do that.
That's what Alex said the last time we did that, but whatever.
Yeah.
We're moving on. Okay. So anyone having trouble getting that audio to play?
Give me in the chat. God, this is great. Dude, you can't forget the bell though, Joe. You need
Oh, I know.
notifications.
That's right. You may want to actually smash that like button.
Like button.
Okay. This is what happens when it's workshop 3. It's just, anything goes.
Little. It's the final
and
section.
end of the week.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll move on. So the next bit of code for the jump sound effect, we're going all the way back to our player object and that huge long step event code. And just so happens I'm right in the right place. So we obviously want the jump sound effect to run when we jump in the game. So if you look at where in our code are we jumping, it's right here. It's exactly just this. So if place meeting, if there's a block underneath us and the user hits the space bar, then we do this, which shoots the character up into the air at a rate of 7 pixels per frame. So basically, it's just when that happens, that's when we want to add these other few lines. So I've got in the code, I included in the Word document, I included that line of the VSP equals -7, just so you know where to insert these next couple lines. And obviously the first line is a comment, but, and I'm gonna just line these up. Okay, so you just copy and paste those lines in here. And I will walk us through what this code is all about. It's not too complicated, but worth explaining still. All right. So as you can tell, we've got 3 more functions that are related to playing sounds. And in the chat, we say we have a YouTube video, but I don't know why. I'm gonna come back to that. Okay.
It's the YouTube channel for media.
Oh, nice. Very good. Very good. Okay, so I'll work backwards here just because this last line is the one we've already done. It's this last line is identical to what we used to make the background music play, right? So audio play sound. Now we're selecting our jump sound effect. Make sure that the name in here is identical to the name in our list of assets. Give it a priority of 10, just so it's higher than the background music. And I set the looping to false because I absolutely do not want this sound effect to loop. Okay, and then the other one. So we've got 2 more. We've got 1 more for pitch and 1 more for gain. Pitch, just like how it sounds, this is altering the pitch. This is altering the frequency of the sound effect on the fly. And so we have to say which sound effect do you want me to alter. And then I used this function that I introduced briefly last time, which is random range. So normally pitch would just have audio sound pitch would just have 2 values, one for what sound do you want me to change, and then how do you want me to change it. So 1 would be like the normal pitch, the normal frequency of that sound. And then anything that was less than 1, so like 0.5 would be half the frequency. And 2 would be double the frequency. So 2 would be twice as high, 0.5 would be half as high. So what I'm doing here is I'm using a random range between 0.9 and 1.1, which is just slightly below the normal frequency and just slightly above the normal frequency. And the reason why I'm doing this is something that I think really helps. Any sound effect that you are going to hear over and over and over again, if it always sounds exactly the same, that can get really obnoxious and annoying to the player. So what I like to show you here is just this way, there is a slight variation in the pitch every time this sound effect is played. Similarly, the next line, gain is essentially electronic volume amplification. So this is how loud or how soft do you want that sound effect to be. And this is basically the same, where I have to say what sound effect am I manipulating. And then once again, I used random range, this time between 0.1 and 2. So that's pretty drastic in terms of the volume. And then the gain has a third value, which is it's listed here as time. And what that means is how many milliseconds do you want me to take to get from the normal starting volume level to this new volume level. And I don't want it to take any gradual time at all. I want it to be instantaneous. So that's why I set it to 0.
Mhm.
But this would be more like if you wanted to like fade in a sound effect, or have something fade in, you could set that to be a longer period of time. All right, so this should be good. So let's run this and make sure that this sound effect is working. And actually, okay, so it is working. And I set the volume to be like really drastic, just so that you could tell, because initially when I would first be running this demo in the DMS 120 class, if you set it to a more reasonable, more subtle range for the volume, it's just sort of tough to notice it. So yeah, okay. Anyone having problems getting that to work from the Zach and Noah contingency of coders? Very good, very good. Nice, awesome. Okay, moving on. We're almost done, and we've got 25 minutes left. These last couple things won't take too long. And then I think media group, you have some like last minute wrap up stuff that you want to do at the very end. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, cool. All right. So the next thing, so all we've got left is we need to make the game full screen. We need to be able to exit the game anytime we want. And then we need to be able to export the game to share it. Yeah, so this won't take too long. So we have one more object to create. So I'll go to objects, create object, and I'm going to call this OB underscore full screen. And I'm trying to think of what order I want to show you this in. Okay, so all right, so we will add a create event. And so this is what we want to execute when this object is first loaded into memory. Execute code, and I didn't provide this one line of code for you, but that's okay, because I think we can handle this. All you have to do is type window underscore set underscore full screen, and then in the parentheses, type true, and then semicolon at the end for good measure.
You know,
This is a pretty self-explanatory function. It's to set the game to full screen. And obviously true is setting it to full screen. And if you ever needed to, like give your player the option to play the game in a windowed mode as opposed to full screen, you would insert something that would change this to false.
Mhm.
And as you've seen, what it would default to, and this could all be changed under the hood, is the default size of the game would be based on the dimensions of your very first room, whatever the first room is. So like the dimensions of my first room are 1366 by 768. And I don't have any camera in that first room, so that's what it's going to use to determine how big to make the game when it's in a windowed mode.
Yeah, I totally forgot about the following camera.
Yep. So, okay, so we have that one line of code that's going to make it full screen. Now we need another something so that we can exit the game. So I'm going to do key pressed, and then is it under other? Yes, under others, escape. So key press, others, and then escape. So when we hit the escape key, I want to exit the game. So I'm just going to drag that in. Okay, and we are almost done with this. So we want every room, in this case, we want every room to be full screen in our whole game. And we want the user to be able to hit the escape key at any time, no matter what room they're in, to exit the game. So the way that we're going to do this is we're going to place this new object in our very first room. So this full screen room should be in whatever room has a little house next to it in our list of rooms, whichever one is first, because, well, I mean, hopefully it would be obvious, but otherwise it would not know to make the game full screen yet, and it wouldn't make it full screen until we got to whatever room had this object in it. So let's place this in our start room. And like I said, I placed the invisible objects in the upper left so I can see them all. I don't place them on top of each other. So I, just give one its own square and put this one in a different square. And we need to do one other important thing. So if you go back to the full screen object, we need to check this little box that says persistent. So check that box. And what persistent does, this is a cool little function. Persistent just makes it so that this object will be treated as if it exists in every room after the first one that you introduce it to. So now every room after this is going to be set to full screen, and every room after this is going to have the functionality of being able to hit the escape key in order to exit the game. So let's hit play and test it out. So it does work, but what works for me, but Zoom is getting mad at me because now I have multiple things that are trying to fight for my full screen control here. So I guess that for this, you're just going to have to take my word for it. Noah and Zach, how is it working for you?
Works for one at least.
Yep. Good. Yeah, as soon as it, on my end, as soon as it opens up, then Zoom just says, Yeah, good. It literally, Zoom actually closed it for me, which is not ideal. Let's try it again.
Okay, both work. It works for both of them.
Yep. Anyway, yep. So now you should be able to play through your game. It should be in beautiful full screen visibility. And then I like to have that functionality where the user can hit some button to exit at any time, at least while you're testing and building your game. Obviously, when it's done, you probably wouldn't want one key that can just end the game out of nowhere if they hit it accidentally. But I think it's really good to have it like for while you're play testing and stuff like that, because um, when it's full screen, it's tough to hit the X to close the game. And you're usually, when you're play testing and building a game, you're going to want to like run it and stop it and run it and stop it over and over and over again. So, okay. The last thing that I need to show you is how to create this for something shareable. And this is super easy, but I just need to bring it to your attention. So up in our list of menu icons here, the fifth one over from the left looks like a little box with an arrow going into it, and this is Create Executable. So you have two choices. One is package as installer, one is package as a zip. Now, they're both pretty self-explanatory, but the first one is going to export a file, an executable file, that someone can use to actually install your game on their system. And then they can always run it just the way they would run any other application on their machine. The other one, package as zip, puts all the necessary files into one convenient little zip folder. And there's an executable inside there, which does not need to be installed in order to run. And I think that's kind of more convenient when you just want to share your game with family and friends, because that way they don't need to go through the process of installing things. They can just run it and play it for a little while. It's more like you would use package as installer when you were totally done with the game and you wanted people to like keep it forever and play it forever. And you would use package as zip when you just want to share it with people and maybe have them play tested and give you feedback and that sort of thing. Well, thanks for everyone who participated. I know this was the first of what will hopefully be many such things like this. I hope that they are